I just saw something that said that Perplexity is going to start sharing revenue with publishers that are generating the content for their site. I guess essentially, if it's like a profit sharing or whatever, or like type of thing you see on YouTube or any of the other platforms.
Paul, with his product launch formula, Jeff Walker always used to joint venture with everybody to get people in his program.
Yeah. This could change the way these AI systems are seen, right? Because I think that a lot of AI is seen as being somewhat predatory or stealing, even though Google, I don't feel like really ever had that type of view towards it, even though all Google was doing was presenting somebody else's work. And so Perplexity is doing something similar, but now, oh, it still says the process guru back there. And so that's, I think, interesting. And again, like, that is part of the reason why some of these AI laws and rules and the way people view it, I feel like are temporary, because things like this, the business models of how everyone can share and have an ecosystem, have not been figured out yet. You know, this is more similar to what was going on with YouTube, where at one point in time with YouTube, part of the issue was that people were just like putting music in their videos, and that's like a copyright issue. But then now they have a system where, at least the last time I checked, where if you have someone else's song in your video, then they potentially either get all of or some of the money from your ad revenue, right? And so there's a way of, I think people have this doom and gloom version of things where they're like, look, it's doing this, it's doing that. We do live in the digital age where everything is trackable, and you can turn this into a business model for everyone to have a good time with, essentially. And then the other thing I just saw was that they're developing some AI packs for the new upcoming midterm elections, essentially so that we can, I would say, get some AI representation for our political leaders, and with the laws that are going to be put into place. I think I'm not a big PAC person. I think I worry about what PACs do to democracy in America, whatever we have left. But we are going to have some PACs. We definitely could use some AI on both levels. I think that, and you see this, we talk about blockchain technology in here at times, just because I think there are a lot of parallels and, of course, a lot of overlap and coordination between AI and blockchain. And you see a similar type of issue, although one of the things that the current administration does seem to be interested in is getting some laws on the books for blockchain technology, which was part of the problem with blockchain for a while, where there just really weren't like issues like what's a security and what's a not on the blockchain. Some of that just wasn't being dealt with. And the same thing goes for AI, where part of what holds AI back is not restrictive laws, it's just no laws, right? When some of the larger companies aren't, will push each other. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that the blockchain gives AI other forms of funding and other sort of like tools. And then the blockchain is, we've talked about this before, potentially going to be one of the solutions for the ability to fake things with AI, where the one thing about the blockchain that I think a lot of people who aren't familiar with it don't realize is that it is a way to validate things. It is a way to authenticate various pieces of media or digital assets. That's the NFT concept, where I think a lot of people think NFTs are just monkey pictures, when really it's a way of validating a digital asset. And that could be very important with where AI is going right now, as far ahead with legislation. Maybe now, no fees with crypto, but for sure, I think again, like the current administration is doing more with it, but for a while, for sure, they were not giving legal legislation around certain aspects. That's part of the reason why either a year or two ago that Coinbase sued the SEC, because they just wanted a ruling. What's going on here? And that is something that in the blockchain industry, they have wanted for a while, which is, hey, either make it legal, make it illegal, give it a designation, do something, because I think that what they realized within their own industry, but what was not being realized, that, hey, we'll figure it out. Just give us a law and then we will figure it out from there, which I think also probably made the politicians a little bit uneasy because it's essentially they were going to come up with a law and the crypto people were going to figure out a way around it because it's probably not that hard to figure out a way around these laws. And the same thing goes with AI. I think AI might be a little bit different where I think just because of the nature of it, maybe I haven't totally thought this out. You can get very restrictive AI laws pretty easily and quickly that would set things back. The issue is it only sets things back in America. So then we already are seeing this with China is starting to just really dominate the AI landscape in a similar type of way to when the US was very dominant in the auto industry and maybe even the computer industry. And then Asia became one of the leading manufacturers. And now with the newest industry, AI and AI solutions, we may see something similar, right? Especially if the laws are way too restrictive in America to start to use the Chinese models. But then other companies are going to say, no, we can't use Chinese models. They're already saying that. Um, which is weird because sometimes it really shows the ignorance of how AI works because they won't even want to use open source Chinese models. Yes, it's not impossible for an open source Chinese model to be potentially dangerous on some level. But when you think about how AI works, and as long as there isn't an obvious virus stored within the code, an AI model can't just take over your computer. It has an input and an output. And if you put a phrase into your AI image generator, then it generates an image. Not too much beyond that, right? And so being afraid of a Chinese AI image generator because of a security reason, I just don't see that. But maybe somebody else here who's more of a security expert could say why you would be afraid of an AI image generation model from China if all it does is generate images. Okay, so that is blockchain, China, and AI. And Steve Ball is using everything. 11 plus years of BS from the US SEC just got to keep their banking overlord JP Morgan happy. 2.20, shameful treason. Yeah, no, 2.2. But yeah, I think that I don't know if we want to get too into blockchain, but part of the issue, and this is also like if you see a lot of people are talking about AI is going to push one of the largest wealth transfers in the world or in history, where it is hopefully we're part of that wealth transfer, right? In the right direction, right? By being cutting edge on AI, you can transfer wealth, to yourself in a way by using this technology in an intelligent way. But then I don't know if it was like a wealth transfer as much as a money controlling or an asset controlling shift where the blockchain, for better or worse, gave everybody the ability to generate their own currency. Some of them are very popular, right? And that takes currency generation out of the hands of the governments of the world, which is essentially where it was. Although if you look into other aspects of currency, such as gift cards, there were ways in which other institutions were generating currency, or even Disney bucks, right? If you go to Disneyland, they have their own currency there, which is probably one of the pro reasons why blockchain technology is not as much of an issue as people thought. Obviously, it can be an issue, but if gift cards and Disney currency exist, what's the difference if they're on the blockchain? Okay, that's a bunch of stuff that's only tangentially related to what we should be talking about here. We should stick with AI. Okay, today's Q&A day. Tomorrow will be Dr. Jeff special. I have to noodle around with whether or not we're going to continue with our semi-struggling attempt at doing Laura's. I do think that no matter what, as long as the platform's working, I am going to finish off at least showing people run pods. I was thinking about doing Google Opal, but if you were here on Friday, we did take our tour around Google Opal, I think, and somebody else may have a different summary of Google Opal than I do. I felt limited for sure at this point. I think that they would probably admit that this is really just proof of concept. The ease of setting up a workflow is fairly easy. You can set up a workflow fairly easy. The workflows are, though, fairly limited in functionality, in model choices, in integrations with other platforms. And I think that they could be used for prototyping. I'll tell you, when I look at different companies and how they get their AI ideas, if you're very informed about AI, then maybe you don't need to do this. But like for a lot of people who just don't get AI and don't understand what's possible, using something like Google Opal and just showing, hey, look, we can get something like this that could be useful. Production ready, production grade platforms, I think is a no-go for sure. And we really didn't get into like how complex you could make it, but I saw it definitely didn't seem like it was going to get that complex. So I think if you want, you can play around with Google Opal. It might be good for you to get ideas or see what's going, or to like flesh out a concept, maybe to visualize it, to see what steps you should be taking. Maybe it can help you with putting together ideas for prompts for your workflows or something like that. But yeah, you're not really going to, I think, develop a workflow on Google Opal that's going to either generate you an incredible amount of money or be able to be functional and save you a lot of time. So today's Q&A day. If you're here, it'd be definitely great if we got some questions. Otherwise, I'm just answering my own answers, which gets a little bit. Would it be possible to do an Asian AI LLM model workflow? Dr. Jeff special next week. So we have a comparison between more Western AI LLM tools and more Asian oriented tools. I think that we should always be inclusive of all countries when we say, I think when I was younger and more racist parts of country, basically every Asian person was called Chinese, right? So I do not want to do that as well. However, I think all of the AI models we want to test out are Chinese. They're not Asian. If there are like good Korean and Japanese and Singaporean models, I would like to look into it. I think we'd have to, for that to work. Yeah, I might be able to think about something and then essentially we'd figure out what the different models are and then have a workflow and then just switch out the models and see what looks better. I do think that we could run into a straw man issue, right? Where it's here, I chose this American model and then I chose this Chinese model. And it's like, oh, look, the Americans won again. It's like, yeah, you chose like the worst Chinese model. So we would have to probably do a little bit of benchmark. So what is the benchmark best LLM from Asia/China? What's the best benchmark AI model from America slash, I guess it's just America/America, right? It's interesting. So is nobody else making models? I wonder, because I'm thinking about it and I look at the different models that I work with and that are out there. And it's like, yeah, it's either America or China. There aren't a lot of, hey, check out this Russian model I've been using recently, or take a look at this one from France. What can we do to get this thing to make less mistakes? That's what we're here for. I've been working on a couple of projects right now where I am doing some vibe coding and I'm using Claude. And what I notice is, and it's become even more apparent with me on the two projects I'm working with it on now, and maybe it's just at this point, you cannot let these AI models just push you around. You can't let them, if you are vibe coding, you have to question every decision. Not every decision, but like when you ask, okay, here, design me this one file, you should take it file by file, you should take it piece by piece. You'd really not have it go all in on anything because it makes so many assumptions. Not all these assumptions are right. It is not good at this higher level thinking. And so it's going to make mistakes. You have to assume that is going to happen. And so you need to be developing your vibe coding workflow where you are checking in with it when it's doing everything. So like you can ask it, hey, like either you've given it a very detailed prompt on what you want it to do for a certain file or a certain module or whatever you're doing. And then once it's done, ask it to tell you about it. And it is going to take you more time, but it could possibly save you time because then otherwise you're building your house with an unsolid foundation. And so I would really check the foundation as you're going. And with the 2 projects I'm working on now, I think I know what I'm really looking for it to build very well. And so once it does something, I'll ask it to do something. And then at the end, after it's built, I'm like, did you do this and this? And it's, oh, great idea. Like, spot on. I should do those things. And it's okay. Yeah. Like,
So
so
they
you
don't.
like things, it's super obvious to me, huh? All right. Let's see. I need to build an agent to assist with vendor ERP evaluations. It would include tailored questions based on the industry and specifics of the company, but I'm also wondering about building something lightweight that could gather information from a user's laptop about how they are using the current system and what other work they're doing, i.e., in Excel. How would you approach it? Okay, Carolyn, there is a lot in that question. So we went from something that's based on the industry and specifics of the company. And then we went to something where their user's laptop and an Excel sheet. So I'm a little bit confused there. Hold on, let me read the rest. The end goal is to have a very tailored set of requirements that I can then map against a database of capabilities across selected vendors as a first pass to get to a short list to come in and do demos. I could start with some of the pieces maybe, but then that might not necessarily work. If you want to chime in and maybe go over with me in a back and forth, I can start with the first, which is trying to do ERP evaluations. It would include tailored questions based on the industry and specifics of the company.
It's the discovery. Yes.
Go for it. Okay.
It's just
To me a little bit more in depth.
yeah. So what I'm trying to do is get to a much shorter discovery process for the company. They raise their hand. They're saying, we believe that we need a new ERP package.
What's an
And
ERP package?
It's like their accounting, what they use for their accounting and processing. So then I would have a set of more general but industry focused questions for each of the key people to answer. But the thing I was asking about, was there an agent or something that I could have run on their local computer to capture like the work that they're doing, basically? What are they doing inside of their current ERP system? And then what are they doing outside of it? Where are they using Excel and other programs to process? Because their current system doesn't allow for that. Usually in situations like this, there's a lot of manual work that's being done. And when you ask people to tell you what manual work that is, it's always deficient. So I was just trying to figure out, is there a way I can use an agent?
An agent that could evaluate the work that they're doing, I feel like be either very complex unless there is another solution, because somehow it's going to need to be able to translate the work that they're doing into actual, like, something they can understand.
Yeah.
What is it making that on? Like the mouse movements, the click movements, or is it pulling information straight out of their ERP, which you're going to have to grab that from, and then it would be able to analyze it. So that's possible, is if there was a way to have an agent system that understood the concept of an ERP and then was able to, but that's the thing is so like typically you would have an LLM sort of evaluate these things, but does the LLM even understand what these ERP are?
Yeah, no, I'm even wondering, what if it recorded video?
Right.
Is something that could extract meaning from the video?
That was another idea I had, which is like video, or I guess it would be video because it's like more than one frame, right? But it could be a frame that doesn't do 24 frames per second, but maybe something that's doing one frame per whatever, and then pulling in that information. But then from there, you need something that is evaluating that video, pulling out information. It is a complex system. I'm not saying that this is impossible, but
if I could recommend just a few things to try.
it.
Yeah. So if it's online, you can use a tool. This is just brainstorming here, but you could use a tool like Mouseflow to do a lot of the video. It's actually what marketers use to track performance conversions on a web page. And when people
Uh-huh.
land on a specific page, actually video records the whole page. And then there's certain elements on the page that you're tracking interactions with. And you can also see a heat map of how people are interacting with the page. So that would be like the data collection step, some form like that of tools that exist. And then you could suck that into the AI model to actually do an analysis of the data for you and deliver those insights. So that might be another way to get to it.
So I think on some level, what Don is saying is what you want to do. At the very least, where it's like part of what you're trying to do here is figure out what is the key information that you want. And as you're saying, it's like there's certain parts of the screen that actually matter, and there's other parts that don't matter. And so there's certain buttons or areas of interest where it's okay, if they're doing this, then that actually means something. There is a part where you need to break down the problem and figure out these different steps in what is the information you want to pull out of it, and then how do you pull it out of it. I think that his approach is at least a good starting point, which is, and so either again, like you're always able to get the information somehow. As we're saying, like you get video of these people doing what they're doing, and if you have video of it, then that means the information is there, and then you can have some system evaluate the video. Or if there was a way to pull out essentially their actual code-based movements, right? Where instead of needing a video, there's something that is telling you events, right? Where it's, oh, okay, they press this button at this time, then they press this button at that time. And as long as you have the events that they are doing, then one way or another, you at least have your initial information that you need to analyze. And then from there, it is a form of analysis that will give you the information on the other end. So you could do if you think about the different types of analysis, one could be, oh, it looks like you press this button on average 2.5 times per hour. It's like, okay, sure. Or it's, oh no, like what it looks like you're doing is that you have a tendency to really like you're using this page the most and you're using this functionality the most, and you only use this functionality after that functionality. So this is, and with all of these things, there is typically this two-step process, right? Which is one, extracting out the information in a way that is going to be usable down the line. And then how do you use that information? What is, not just because you could give either forms of information, right, to some sort of AI model and be like, analyze this for me and give me an output. But at the same time, if
I throw in,
it's structured, it could figure out some things. And then, yes, Steve, do you have some suggestions?
yeah, I've been approached by virtual assistants all the time. Oh, I can do that work. I can do this, I can do that. And I always ask them the same question. As the process guru, I always ask them, what's the process that you use to take the information away from me or the things I'm doing during the day? How are you gathering that? And they never seem to be able to answer it. So I've decided that I would build an app. So I built an app for VAs. They brand it, and it's a white label thing. They brand it and they do all the bits and pieces with it to set it up. And then they can add the little marketplace in there, so they can have people that they work with in a local area that also VAs that are better at specific types of tasks. So they can divvy the work out that the clients got, and those people are better at doing the job than the other. But the way I've done it is I've said, okay, look, it's going to go back to basics. What apps do I use on my computer that I'll load it on during the day? List those. What apps am I using online? List those. And then once you've got those two bits of information, you can then start going, what tasks am I doing in those apps? So during the day, you record the stuff on the app. So the app basically just goes, I'm doing now. Oh, I'm using Excel and I'm doing this. Because eventually we want to give as much of the work to the AI as possible. So I'm suggesting that we can do a quadrant though. Top quadrant is easy and cheap and easy to learn, or an easy job. It's easy to learn. And the bottom one is a difficult job and it's difficult to learn. So you put your tools that you're using, you put in the tasks that you're doing, and then we see what we can offload to the VA. Now, when I was building it, I was thinking, wait a minute, this is how we take the work away from people and give it to a agentic AI. It's exactly the same process. We need to know what the person's doing so we can get all those little jobs done by AI. So the same tool can be used for doing that. Yeah, I'm just in the process of setting up with a virtual assistant company that I've already got clients and stuff like that. And then they're going to use the tool for free and see if it works for them, and they can do me testing it for me. So that's
Nice.
the way that when I approached it, because you can put a screen recorder on, you can record what you're doing on your screen. And there's an app out there where you can actually record your movements on the screen and it turns it into a training video. And so there are ways of doing it. How do you teach the machine how to use your ERP when in fact it would be much easier to do the process manually?
And ultimately, that's what I'm trying to capture. What are people doing manually? And is it possible to acquire a new system that would be able to handle those processes that people are doing manually?
One thing also, Caroline, I'll say, and this is like a good thing to keep in mind, it is hard to build this way. So in your first version where you're like, maybe I can ask them industry and company specific questions, I could build something and then I'll get an output that way. I don't think that's the best way to go about it. And the reason is what I have found is people don't know what they don't know. They're not going to give you good answers. Like you could come up with, and now you have a test / homework for them to do, and their answers are not going to be satisfactory. People have a hard time articulating what they're doing at times. They don't even realize they're doing things a lot of times, especially things that they do all the time. They will just ignore aspects of it. And then it's just something that people don't want to do. Now, on the other side, although I think that it could be a bit of a challenge to put this together, a workflow analysis tool that can be used to figure out how to better incorporate or automate processes later, that is potentially a winning idea, because that is something, if you look at with all of the AI adoption that people are supposed to be doing, they need that workflow automation tool that is getting high quality information that can be used for potential AI automation or whatever else you want to do with it. And this is one of the biggest blockers / hurdles to building a good automated AI workflow for a company or an individual, is getting them to properly show you what they want automated. But again, making it robust and flexible could be difficult. Having it analyze the information properly could be a little bit difficult. But again, as we've seen, there is one or two ways at least to pull the information out, really the proper analysis, and then taking that and going somewhere with it. Being able to analyze workflows of people in an intelligent way, that's like $1 billion idea if you can get it going. Because again, like so many people need that. Like for them to be able to adapt AI properly, they need to have this analysis of their workflow. They cannot, again, even if you didn't have AI to generate the questions, when I first started with doing that form of AI consulting, I generated the questions myself using AI to help. Of course, I had one of the LLMs help me, but then I would refine it and be like, okay, this is the type of information I need for them. If they were a healthcare company, a education company, finance, whatever, they never wanted to answer the questions. They wouldn't give me good answers to the questions. If I handed them the questions and asked them to give me answers in the next meeting, they never had answers. And so asking people to explain their workflow to you, or like the aspects of their workflow or what they're doing, I think is inherently a problematic approach. If you can automatically extract that information, you now have a tool that has a lot of value.
Yeah, like a bigger.
It's just difficult.
That's why I built first.
Yeah.
This is helpful though, because I need to think through it, because I need to have a prototype here in the next couple of weeks.
You can have a play with mine if you want. You can have a play around with mine if you like.
Actually,
Yeah, I don't know if you got my details or whatever, but yeah, it's built, but in test mode at the moment. So you can go in there, put in the tools you're using on the computer, tools you're using online, put in the task that you're doing, and look at it as though I'm giving you a tool that's going to help us to automate almost 45% of your workflow. So you're now going to be able to do more creative and more beneficial work and stuff that you like doing, rather than having to do all this kind of stuff around admin and stuff that really takes all your time up and doesn't matter. So that's how I see it. It's just a tool to say, look, If you want a virtual assistant, go down that road. If you want to have an AI assistant do all the work for you, then back it into N8N and do it that way. But you got to start somewhere. And I always think start with basic, start with process. That's what I always do. Process, tools, clarity, people. Now we got AI and invest in yourself. Because I don't like five, I only have to have six. And it was weird. One of my AIs said, "Oh, invest in yourself." And I went, "Oh, really? Yeah, perfect. That's the perfect six things." I put my email address in the chat.
Oh,
For you, and Caroline.
Okay. Yeah. And I sent you my email in a private chat.
okay. And then Dawn, so you have 4 different questions here. How do you merge the image with the text? How do you update only blank cells in a Google Sheet? What is the best prompt practice? And how do you turn an HTML into a PDF for free? So 2 of these questions I think are somewhat similar, which is how do you merge the image with the text? And how do you turn it HTML into a PDF for free? So really you need to find a service that does this, that you can call an API into to do it, right? So if there is something that will turn an HTML into a PDF, like there is either a API service that will do this, right? And then you connect that to your node. You could also, and this might be outside the realm, there's Python code that will turn an HTML into a PDF. I think there's a way of doing a custom node like that and just having it use Python code for that. And then the same thing works with the image with the text. For either of them, there's either an API service or Python code to do it. And that's true with N8N node, right? N8N doesn't do anything. It just connects together pieces that can do something. Update only blank cells. One thing, and this might be a brute force, there might be something else, but there are the true false nodes where is this cell blank true? Then do this. Is this cell blank false? Then do this. That's a solution. If you want something that will only do something for one condition, but not for the opposite condition, then there are the true false nodes that you could insert into there to verify whether or not a cell is blank or not. And then what is the best prompt practice for an AI agent with a tool? Can you elaborate on that? Because I think that there's more details in there and maybe that can open up a larger discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just real quick with the PDF, I've heard of like Puppeteer, Playwright, and Gutenberg. Between those 3, is there one that you'd recommend or not really sure?
Not really sure.
Okay, cool. All right. So for the AI agent tool, the AI agent node in N8N, you can add tools for it and of course models. But on the tools side is where you can put a prompt for the tool itself. And so in this case, like I'm using a Perplexity search tool. What I want the agent to do is basically like a guest researcher and a topic researcher. I have 2 different ones, and they're performing the research with given the name and the LinkedIn, they're performing a whole bunch of deep research on that. And so I wanted to use the Perplexity Sonar deep research tool, but with the ChatGPT-5 model or GPT-5 mini model as the brain. So the agent, right now, I have the prompt at the agent level, and then I've chosen for it to do the magic prompting for the tool so that the agent basically decides how to use the Perplexity tool. But I wasn't sure if it made more sense to take the search guidance, like what information I actually collect about the guest, and move that down to the Perplexity tool. I've tried both, and I have a little bit of mixed results. It seems like it works better at the agent level with the magic selection. It just feels like there's a little less control, and I wasn't sure what you're.
Yes, no, that is what I would suggest, is that you want to give it to the brain and not the tool. Right? Like you want the brain to have that level of it and you want it to be making decisions. You want your brain to be a brain and you want your tool to be a tool. Right? And the more you can use your tools all the way around for their intended purpose, the better it'll be. And if one part of it is supposed to be making these decisions, it should have as much information about the decisions that you want it to make. And then it'll send that decision/order to your tool and just let the tool do the tool's work, right? And this is the way people use sort of the thinking version of these things, right? Have it do all of the thinking, have it do a very specific format, have it take all of the thinking outside of the tool, and then the tool has a very well organized set of orders and rules, and then it just does what it's supposed to do.
Okay. Very cool.
Um,
And just to share something with that too, in terms of experience for folks, this Sonar deep research tool, I didn't realize how many tokens it takes, but if you do a 300 token input, then it can spend, depending on what you're asking for, 30, 40, 50,000 tokens, which it did on me, thinking about that input and finding the things. So I ended up spending, well, not a lot of money, but relative to the task, it was supposed to be like a 2-cent task and it ended up being like $3 for one action. So
that is really just like the text based, like I put in a text and another text comes back, is pretty low cost, right? But once it starts to spend time thinking, and then also if it's doing deep research, then it's potentially pulling out an incredible amount of it. You're getting charged for all of that. And you do need to think about that ROI, right? I ran into something similar where I'm working on a project for someone. And so one of the things that the LLMs can do is they can be used as a VLM, right? And so they can basically, they can take in an image and then they turn all of the pixels in the image into tokens essentially, and then basically read in an image like it's a paragraph or like a story, and then is able to make decisions. It's actually pretty useful in certain, it's again, it's like one of these LLM things where it's good for a lot of different things, but not really as good as models that are really supposed to do that task. And so it was just burning up tokens because it is taking in an entire image and, oh yeah, so this is like 1,000,000 tokens. It's, oh, okay. It's 1,000,000 tokens, huh? Great. So yes, once you step outside of, I'm just going to have a conversation with this thing or a chat body sort of situation with it, to no, I'm going to have it do some real work, those tokens can add up really quickly. And the same thing, if you build a, like you can use them to make a website generator or something like that, or something more advanced where it's doing HTML code or other forms of coding, it can start burning up a lot of tokens doing that because it does have the thinking and then the actual, you're not just paying for the tokens in, you're paying for the thinking tokens and the tokens out, which that is where it adds up.
Yeah, I've been invested backlit about £60 a day for about the last 2 weeks.
Jeez.
Burning through doing mostly fixing the things that it's done wrong, which I don't like being charged for.
Is
It gets it wrong, doesn't build what I asked for.
the other thing you could possibly do, Don, is maybe not use deep research as much as a more structured, formatted research where you wanted to be able to pull information from the internet, but maybe it can have, it doesn't need to be able to just do whatever it wants. It's okay, no, this is what I want you to do, this and this, and then it's going to pull enough information for you that it doesn't necessarily need deep research. It just needs to do research that is more specific. Okay, yeah, like you found the top 10 Google entries about this person, and then you pulled all the information from it. Great. And then from there, we figured it out.
No, you're so right. That's exactly what I ended
for a
up
week.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
60,000 business records, company directors, and all that kind of stuff. Just in the borough of Croydon in London, 60,000 company records have got telephone numbers, web addresses. Manus working overtime on it. I spent 199 quid on Manus to upgrade it to the very good version where it's got like 3 all at once.
How much is a quid? I hear, I'm not from the world of quids.
Dollars less.
So it's 100 and something dollars.
I look paying in dollars because when I see 97, I go, oh no, 97 quid. And I go, oh, it's dollars.
$1.20. Thank you. But then what's a pound then?
I think probably we can get 150 or something. But I don't know the
You
exchange.
have a quid and you have a pound?
60 quid.
I got you.
Every single day for weeks. But I'm building something. I'm building a business directory for our Croydon Business Association. And the directory, all the businesses are listed on there. All their products and services are going to be on there. There's a job board on there so they can advertise jobs within the area and keep everything local. Because what we want to try and do is choose local, think local, and buy local. So if we get everyone in the database, 60,000 companies in the borough of Croydon, we can develop. What it gives us is the biggest database, not just in the whole of the world, apparently. That's what the AI said. When we finish doing this, it says we can have, there's no one else going to have a list of businesses in an area, every single one of them, like in a directory. So, yeah, I've been busy working on getting the phone numbers and the web addresses. I have to go to Google Maps to do all that, but I did it all with Manus. It's just been, yeah, it's been really good. Worth the money.
Okay. Any other questions from the group? Anything we're working on? All right. More British pounds to dollar conversions. Arnett, I was going to say, I don't feel like you offended anybody. I possibly offended somebody by saying that all the Asian models come from China, but I was just saying that I feel like in a way that you're not supposed to, if you're going to say Asian model, you should just say Chinese models, because I don't even know of other countries that are producing models. But your general concept is right. Is there a performance difference? In which way do you want to go between essentially Chinese models and American models, or you could say Eastern and Western models? But yes, any other questions or potential currency exchange rates that people want to go over?
If there are no other questions, I did have 11 labs questions. All right.
Go for it. Just let's see what you got.
Cool. So like in the podcasters that I've got now, I've got 3 different variants, but I'm trying to figure out how to make them like as personal as possible. And I think you gave some tips the last time we talked, but I wasn't sure if there's anything that comes to mind to making the agents feel like human in every way.
Have we tried
Right.
Google Notes?
Notebook LM. Yeah, I've effectively created kind of voices like Notebook LM. Yeah, it's very good for that podcast creation. This is an AI podcaster where you submit, you're an expert, you want to talk about a topic, you submit it to this AI podcaster, and then they go deep on the research on who you are and your topic, and then build a podcast brief and scenario just for you. And then at the end of it, you can take that topic that you have your expertise on, you go on the podcast, it takes the transcripts and the recordings, and then creates all the marketing content for you. So it's, beginning to end, you spend 15 minutes on a podcast, and by the end, you've got 2 weeks of marketing content that's omni-channel marketing. And it's not like the generic or AI written content. It's content that you've effectively created. It's your perspective. So it's authentic.
So when you say that you want it to be more human-like, what are the aspects that you feel like it could be more human-like currently?
I could demo it and you could hear it if you wanted to hear it here. Or
Let's give it how fast can you demo what it sounds like now?
let's see, probably pretty quick.
All right, let's see if there's sometimes audio issues, but as long as we can get past those.
Okay, yeah, let's see here. Let me just pick this. All right, let's see. I'm shooting in the dark. Hopefully this works. We'll see who we're talking to.
Hey, Nate. Welcome. I'm Nia Banks, and I'll be your podcast host today.
Hey, Nia, what's going on?
Hey there. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Just excited to dive into our conversation today. How about you? How's your day going?
Good, just drinking coffee and hanging out with AI gurus.
Oh, that sounds like a fun way to spend the day. Coffee and great conversations with AI gurus. What a combo. Have you had any interesting discussions with them?
All right, I'll stop there. Yeah, I could have kept going through, guys, but
I
like
mean,
that.
sounds pretty good. One of the things that I noticed as I was listening to it, there is definitely the latency issue where she had less latency than he did. He was waiting a while. I wonder if using an accent that somebody's a little bit less familiar with helps out, because then it's harder for you to, I've heard her accent before, but it's just like when you hear it as just plain English and that's with a Midwestern accent or whatever, it's all okay. I can tell a little bit better, but then I don't even know what she would do there as much as make it like one of the things I've heard before is trying to make, if there's any way to give them imperfections in their speech, right? Where they stumble or they hesitate or whatever. And so potentially that's having it add, if you listen to me, like I say when I talk, right?
Yeah.
And I have pauses, like I take time to think about what I'm saying at times. And I said, again, right? And so I wonder if there are ways of looking into speech patterns, and it's what are the things that people do and the things that people try not to do in their speech, right? Where it's okay, like these are things that you shouldn't do when you're talking. It's okay, let me have it do those things 1% of the time, right? So that it is throwing in every once in a while, or is questioning what it's thinking, right? If there was a way to get its speech to not have such a structured like frequency to it, right? Not tonal frequency, but like word frequency, right? Like sometimes people pause for a second and in a weird spot in what they're saying. Although I think that also part of the problem with AI is that it also does do weird inflections and pauses in ways that aren't. And then yeah, I think that like they do have I think that they make it so it can be more emotional or it can read the emotions a little bit better. I don't know if there's anything you could do there because this isn't really a very emotional type of thing. You're not trying to get like scene dialogue or anything like that. But she sounded pretty good. And I think that one thing to watch out for is it's never going to be perfect probably right now. It needs to be good enough and make it so that if the content is good and flows, then people will forgive things at times. And then also, you are going to be the harshest critic on this because you are going to hear every single aspect where it's not right. When I was doing, and I still do visual effects, or I work with people who do visual effects for movies, when they're watching a movie that they did or a show or whatever that they did the effects for, they can point out all these little imperfections in it. And you're like, I could not even pay attention. I couldn't see that. And they're like, oh yeah, I know that. And so you watched that frame 100 times and you also saw it go from nothing to something. So I do think you're probably a little bit better than you think. And then the only thing I would suggest is there any way to give it more human-like speech imperfections? And that could possibly help.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, I took those notes just to recap. Add imperfections, brilliant. Make word frequency causing inconsistencies. That inconsistency piece is human.
Try that because also I think at times it
Goes too far.
yeah.
And then add emotions. Those are the three I'd take away. Is there anything I missed?
Yeah. No, and I don't know.
Inflect.
There might be a way of doing some sort of analysis on the text to figure out where the inflections should be and then like somehow passing that along. I don't know. Where like I saw there's one of these things where I forget. Sometimes it will say read out a number instead of saying it in the normal way. So instead of saying 1982, it'll say 1982, right? As I'm talking about the year 1982.
Yeah.
And that's just like an example, but like sometimes knowing and figuring this out where it's okay, like this is actually the way we want you to talk, even though it doesn't look right on the page. Maybe sometimes you have to understand. So yeah, if it's a date, they have to say it this way instead of that way. And that's just, again, like a simple example of that. But sometimes you do need to guide it to say the words the way a human says it instead of the way that it could just interpret itself based on the way a number looks, or even like some other things that are like that.
One of my bots is that I'm quite a fan of a guy called John Bishop, who's a Liverpool comedian. So in Liverpool, he's got a very strong accent. And that's what I do is that all my LinkedIn posts go through him. So basically anything I'm going to say on LinkedIn to make it funny, I just copy it and then dump it into him. And he coughs it out with this Liverpool fun and jokiness in it. I just copy it and paste it back into LinkedIn and send it. But when I put him through the speech, again, to talk about anything, it doesn't sound right, but it does have the Liverpool thing. So because it's mirroring what that John Bishop does, you may be able to get your tool to be someone who's got an accent and has a strong. My friend's a nurse and she was going through a promotion at work, and she was in the car and she was reading out. They don't have a CV. It's a bit like what I've done and where I worked. And I'm driving the car and I'm thinking, if I hear any more of this, I'm going to fall asleep. And I said, I tell you what, you've got ChatGPT on there, haven't you? And she went, yeah. I went, say this. I want to write a response to this message using this message. in the style of Sarah Millican, again, a Northern comedian. And I was nearly wetting myself in the car when she started reading it out. It was so funny. It was honestly, and she was laughing her head up as well. And I was like, look, send that one in, please. Send that one. Don't send one that's not funny. Send the one that's talking about tea and cake and all the funny things. But she didn't. I took her to the interview. She was an hour late getting there because we had traffic jammed and all sorts of stuff. And we got back and I'm very sorry. It's my fault. We should have left earlier. Anyway, she got the job, so she was made up. But
Cool.
fun story, ended well.
Awesome. Okay. It is 11 o'clock where I am. Our hour is up. I will see everyone tomorrow who shows up tomorrow. Dr. Jeff special. Definitely some run pod stuff. I'll see if it's even worth it to mess around with Laura some more. But see you all tomorrow.
All right, take it. Bye.